for Inside Utah Politics with Lindsay Aerts.
Well, welcome on into News for Utah Plus today. We are so glad you're here. If you're finding us on streaming or YouTube, maybe you clicked off of an X post, wherever you found us, or an Instagram post, we're so glad you're here. I'm, of course, Lindsay Aerts here with my panelists today, Erin Ryder and Adam Gardiner. Hi, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
How are we? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I know. The New Year's started. How's this New Year started for you? In like a lion, out like a lamb? Is that what they say?
I just always get depressed because it means the session's coming.
I know.
So we got to work a lot more.
I get pre-PTSD
right
for
after
the session.
Christmas. My soul dies.
Yeah. I am
For 45 days.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just the thought of 500 bills like to cover, it's just a lot. It is a lot. All right, but we will cover it, and we will gleefully cover it for you because it will be quite the session. Producer Peter's here too. Hi, Producer Peter.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year.
Yes, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, session prep, session dread setting in.
Well, please keep in mind for
it's a
everyone
wild
that
week.
the first week of the session is also Sundance here in Utah. So just from a news perspective, we have a lot to cover.
Oh, it's a busy
And it's the
time
last,
at ABC4.
last year of Sundance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically
Go to Boulder already.
our boss was like, no one can take vacation during this week.
No, it's Martin Luther King March,
Yep.
then session, then Sundance, and then State of the States the same day as the opening day of Sundance. If you can spare a thought for your friends in news.
Right? Just feel sorry for us, please. at
Yeah,
least a
that's
little
what we're
bit.
always asking, really.
Right? All right, let's dive into our topics today, shall we? Just today, as we are recording this, the Senate has advanced a war powers resolution, basically in response to what has happened in Venezuela. Of course, the capture of the embattled leader there, Nicholas Maduro. So this war powers resolution, and you guys can correct me if you see it differently, just reaffirms Congress's role that they are the ones who declare war on another nation. Adam, let me start with you. What do you make of this advancing? And there were some Republicans who voted with Democrats here. They've been criticized by the president.
Yeah, so it looks like that any further action, any military action that the President of the United States wants to take in regards to Venezuela, you have to go through Congress first. This has been pretty typical for every single military conflict we've ever had. For Vietnam, that had to be funded and approved. For Ukraine, weapons had to be approved by Congress. Iraq, the Gulf War, Afghanistan, everything had a war powers resolution. Venezuela is quickly looking like it will not. What's interesting here is we've kind of gone about this a different way. We want regime change, and that's what we've said multiple times, but we haven't changed the regime at all. So what's really happening here is the President of the United States has said he does not back Machado or any of the people that actually won the last election were not allowed to take power, but they kept the current vice president in, who by their definition would also be a narco-terrorist, but it seems they have given large quantities or are offering large quantities of oil to the United States. Maybe, we don't know why yet, maybe because that's the way for them not to get ousted if we just keep giving you oil. We don't know what's happening there. It seems wise that Congress would want to rein in some of that and take some of their responsibilities back, where Congress could actually act like Congress again. It was a little surprising, these votes. Now, this wasn't to vote on the war powers resolution. This was just to say we want to have a vote on this.
Right.
So this could change. Mike Lee, it completely makes sense. He's going to vote with the administration 115% of the time. So that's not a surprise there. It was a little surprising with John Curtis because he's done all the news shows saying that he's not liking the way that Trump is handling this Venezuela situation. We shouldn't be nation building, taking over everything. So that was interesting to see that he did not join with the other Republicans in advancing this, but that could change once it actually comes up. He says, I've had enough time to look at this, to study it, and I'm going to vote to take some of our responsibility as congressmen and senators back.
Well, Erin, will you elaborate on that? Why would Curtis vote not to advance it, but then say, yes, we want to take our powers back?
Sometimes you choose your battles, right? And if Curtis, let's say, for example, Curtis knew that the votes were there to forward the resolution, and let's assume he wanted the resolution to move forward, knew the votes were already there. Maybe he decided to vote no to preserve some political capital with the administration and save that vote for the time when it actually comes to the floor. Maybe he's still taking his time, like Adam said, to look into it and to make sure that he feels comfortable how he's going to vote and to really understand what the roles are, because the Senate is a different body than the House, and the Senate is the body that actually deals with a lot of the foreign issues when it comes to war. And John Curtis has been in the House. This is a new role for him, right? So it may be that he's taking his time to think it out, to look it over, and feel comfortable before he takes the final vote. And since this was a vote just to move the resolution forward, he didn't have to make the final decision yet. Who knows, right? I don't know. I think, though, that if Senator Curtis is strong, is really concerned about the direction the Trump administration is going, then hopefully his votes follow through on that some way or another, right? However he decides that this should come out.
Will you guys elaborate on why was a war powers resolution needed? Is this not already the power of Congress? What's the situation there?
So it is, but historically that's not really been the case for limited engagements. There has not typically been congressional approval for bombing in Yemen. So the Trump administration has bombed Syria. He has bombed Iran. He has bombed Yemen. But he is the FIFA Peace Prize winner. And he has bombed
Isn't
Venezuela.
that a soccer tournament?
Yes, that's the award he won. So, and because he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, so FIFA gave him one, which is a good consolation. But he's bombed all of these countries and has never sought or needed. Well, I would argue he needs in some limited cases, but he's never gone to Congress, and Congress has never pushed back. And Obama did the same thing. Obama did limited bombings in Syria and Libya, and then you remember he said, "I'm drawing a red line that if mustard gas, biological weapons, maybe not mustard gas, but if biological weapons were used." In this country, I'm doing a red line, I'm going to invade. And Congress said, no, you're not. And so they actually reined President Obama in a little bit, but they have not done that with President Trump. And typically there are those in the Republican Party that if this was a Democrat administration, 100% they would be the ones proposing this. But because it's Donald Trump, they don't want to get on his bad side. They're not going to push back at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, from a constitutional perspective, right, foreign powers are basically split between the president and the Senate. And so how those foreign powers are used, there's a little bit of a gray line in some cases, right? But the president does have his own foreign powers and his own ability to go engage in limited capacities internationally. If it gets into a full military conflict, then you've got to have congressional approval for it. And so I think this is just an area where the Senate is saying, hey, remember, there's a line here. There is an area where you cannot go constitutionally and where the Senate has to be involved in approving any further action.
Well, it's sort of why you've seen the president couch it. This is a military operation. And in Iran, it was making sure their nuclear capabilities were not there, right? So sort of these really narrow definitions for why the action was taken in those countries. So final thoughts here, guys. Will Congress do anything further? Is there any political will here to rein in the president when it comes to these foreign nations?
I think there is. I think we're going to see, hopefully if we can get this, I believe it has to go over to the House as well because it's a joint resolution. If it goes over to the House they can afford to lose 3 or 4 votes. And I think there's that many that want to say, hey, we're fans of what you did in Venezuela. We like that you took out an evil guy that we've been after for a long time. But the president hasn't really gotten his story straight. We've been hearing that it's fentanyl that is the real problem. Even his own DEA says fentanyl is not a problem coming from Venezuela. He wasn't charged with fentanyl. It was cocaine distribution and shipping. And we're saying that was really bad. But the former president of Honduras was pardoned, and he was a conspirator in 400 tons of cocaine making it to our shores. So we don't really know what his plan is. He's saying this is hampering American safety and national security, but he has not laid out a case to the American people that I believe is adequate. I'm another one of those that's in favor of a bad guy getting out of power. I have no problem with him being arrested. I have no problem with his wife being arrested, and I want him to serve the rest of their lives in prison. But I don't feel like the administration has laid out a good enough case without Congress keeping them in check.
Interesting. We'll have to see how it plays out. All right, let's come back here locally a little bit here in Utah, switching gears like 180, want to talk about cell phones in schools, because that's what our local executive branch is working on. Governor Cox championing a bill at the state legislature to say no cell phone use in schools from bell to bell. So this is the morning bell to the afternoon bell. No cell phones, even, as you walk to class, as you're in between, not just during instruction time. This takes the law we did last year. It goes further. Erin, let me start with you. How do you feel about this ban? Everyone's calling it a ban. What do you make of it?
I think it's really interesting. So if you think about the high level here for a second, Governor Cox, when he was talking about his priorities earlier this year, talked about his concern that students were not up to reading levels, right? Like his emphasis on the third grade reading level. Phones are a component of that. Like phones have changed the way that we absorb information, and it's the quick, little snippets of information. That's very different than reading even at a third grade level. So if Governor Cox really wants to promote reading comprehension and reading literacy, it probably makes sense to say phones cannot be in the same place as other instruction in school, because they will win out every time when it comes to it. Yeah, right. Yeah. When it comes to a competition. What's interesting is that when I was campaigning last year, I guess 2 years ago now, a lot of people were concerned that if you banned phones entirely and there were an incident at school, how would you be able to access your child, right? How would you know that your child was safe? That's an interesting discussion. I don't know that it means you can't ban phones bell to bell, but I think it's an interesting thing to keep in mind when you're looking at this conversation of safety in schools, but also making sure that children are learning in an environment that's conducive to learning and not just glued to a screen.
Yeah, well, I want to point out that the bill does have carve-outs if there is a threat on campus, if there is an emergency, a medical emergency, stuff like that, phones can be used. So I think lawmakers tried to address some of those concerns with those carve-outs. And likewise, kids can bring their phones to school. They just can't use them during the day. So I imagine that in a scenario where there is, heaven forbid, an active shooter, your phone is going to be in your backpack and maybe you can get to it. I don't know. Maybe you can't. Maybe that's part of the problem too.
I was going to say, if I could offer just an example from the district that we profiled, right? We looked at some of the schools in the Granite School District that have already rolled out some of these policies, and they use those little magnetic bags, right? That if you go to like a stand-up comedy or show or something, they'll make you put your phone in the bag so you can't record it. Sure, the exemption exists in law, right? That they can be on their phone in the case of an active shooter, but are they going to have the opportunity to open that bag?
Can
teachers
you get
going
to it?
around
Can you get
to
the
everyone?
Key? Can you unlock it?
So it's going to depend, right, on how the districts roll out the policy at their level.
Yeah. I mean, I think so I say that because I think it's one consideration that would be important for lawmakers to keep in mind. But generally speaking, I think it's probably a good idea to move forward with the ban to foster a good learning environment.
Adam, you've got kids school age. I've got kids school age. Do you feel like you want the government here saying, nope, no phones? Does this help your parenting? Does it make it a little easier? Or are you like, no, let me make these decisions?
Look, the government's already in our business because my kids go to a public school. So it's a government school. They get to set the rules. It's my responsibility to educate my children and make sure that I'm okay with what's being taught, what they participate in. If it's already hard enough, my oldest is in 6th grade, so this is a very different story for someone in high school, in my opinion. In 6th grade, I don't want my kid to have a phone. I don't give my kid a phone. They have an Apple Watch that I put a school limits until the last bell rings anyway, so they don't have access anyway. So I'm okay with that for elementary. I'm also okay with it for junior and high school because, look, it is a problem. Kids are spending too much time on screens. I think the Granite School District, Ben Horsley over there, has done a phenomenal job. I've observed classes being taught there, and everyone does put it in a bag and in a little cubby while they're in class. They're not on screens. It's awesome. But do I think that in between class periods they're going to all sit in the hall and read Catcher in the Rye and give soliloquies to each other? I don't think that's going to happen either. But anytime our kids can spend off of screens, I think is a good thing. So I don't know the details of Governor Cox's plan. I think this is pretty universally popular. I don't think he's treading new ground here. I think everyone's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I thought we did that last year.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they wanted to do it last year and they had some holdouts. I think because of that principle that Republicans often espouse to, right? That individual responsibility, that like, this is parents' job. The government can't tell me what to do. They had some votes, some key votes that couldn't get on board. So they kind of settled on that happy medium. Now they have those votes, presumably because it's become, to your point, Adam, commonplace for.
And I don't think parents are pushing back. Like,
right, exactly.
There's no like overwhelming groundswell of like, my kid really needs to be on the phone.
Right.
Needs to see what's happening on TikTok. You don't. And I think they're figuring that out. Okay, maybe we didn't push the envelope too far and we can go a little further.
And parenting life hack, at the press conference this week, Governor Cox said we could make him the bad guy when it comes to if your kids are giving you pushback because they can't bring their phones to school. Governor said, make me the bad guy. So
I've been blaming him for years to my kids.
The governor is like a dictator over here.
The governor makes you brush your teeth, not me.
The governor said you have to get your pajamas on. Very good. Okay, we'll watch how that gets rolled out and gets implemented. Want to turn to some local elections, too. As we record this, we are just a mere hours away from the candidate filing period closing here in Utah. There are a host of unique races that we've got our eye on, mainly in the state legislature. But I want to talk about one local race that's caught my attention, and that is the Utah County Clerk. There was a Republican up until today who was filed to run, and just today she dropped out. And a different Republican, his name is Corey Astle, joined the race for Utah County Clerk. So he, from the Republican side, will try to primary the sitting Utah County Clerk, Erin Davidson. Adam, let me start with you. What do you make of this race? I know that Corey is well known in political circles. He's a lawyer. He's got some decent legal chops. What are your thoughts here?
I don't live in Utah County, but I do know Corey. And I think he's awesome. I think he's incredibly smart. He's confident. He's capable, well-spoken. And I think that anything he's put in charge of would do great. I do have issues just as like a political observer with the current Utah County Clerk. I think he has been misleading and has actually, I believe, fraudulently told voters that they have to pay for their own stamps when they return ballots, mail-in ballots, when that wasn't the case and the county commission had made money available for that. He has continually made it harder and harder for people to vote by mail because he personally doesn't believe in it. I get that, but your job is to enforce state law and to make it easy for people to vote, and he's made it much more difficult. I don't like that. And so I think he's going to have a tough fight. We're going to see a lot of the delegates, though. It's not popular. We've heard from Mike Lee, from the president, from this administration, that they're against vote by mail and that all vote by mail is fraudulent. And so there's going to be some delegates that aren't going to like it, and that's going to hurt Corey Astle, I fear.
Erin, to that point, the Utah County Clerk has come out and very explicitly said that candidates should not be gathering signatures, and he wants everyone to run via the convention route. And Adam's shaking his head because when you read that, you're sort of
Sorry,
like...
it's a tick every time I hear it.
Well, you're sort of like, okay, you're the one verifying the signatures of the people who are gathering signatures to get on the ballot, and we know that you hate it. So is there a conflict of interest there? Is there anything you want to see from the Utah County Clerk as he goes through this race? Should he recuse himself in certain situations? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big problem. I'll just say it's a huge problem because as an elected official, as a county clerk, you have a job to do. And that job is to basically just uphold and administer the law. The law allows signature gathering candidates to get on the ballot. It does. You don't have a say in that. That is not your job to insert your personal opinions into that. And that's basically what he's done. And I think that's really where the problem for all of this comes down, is that Erin Davidson probably would have made a much better county party chair than elected official, or at least an elected county clerk, because that's what you do as a party chair. You advocate for the things that you think will promote the party's interests. That's not what you do as an elected county clerk. And he has used his platform as an elected official to discourage people from voting, to discourage candidates from using lawful ways to get on the ballot. And that, to me, is an enormous, enormous problem. So I think this race is going to be very interesting because you will see a lot of people backing Corey Astle just for that purpose. To Adam's point, how do the delegates shake out? And if Corey Astle gathers signatures to get on the ballot and Erin Davidson clearly does not, Erin Davidson is going to have to certify Corey Astle's signatures, right? Yeah. And that, I think, is going to be, I don't know. I mean, we'll see how this goes, but that is really the problem. Aaron Davison is using his seat in a way that he should not be, and it is causing problems with how people are engaging in the election process.
This is putting you both on the spot, and if you don't know, that's okay. I don't know the answer either, but has there been anything that has gone well during his tenure? He's been the clerk for the last 3 years. Like, is turnout lower? Is it the same? I mean, is there real tangible issues other than potentially ethics questions of the clerk, or?
No, turnout has definitely been lower. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think 2024 and maybe 2022, or maybe it was 2023, Utah County, Peter, maybe you can fact check me on this, but Utah County was one of the lowest turnout counties in the entire state.
And data took a long time to get
a really
public.
long time. And Utah County is one of the largest counties in the state. And for Utah County to have one of the lowest voting turnouts in the state, that is an indicator of a big problem.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, we'll watch that race for sure. Other local elections that we are following, we talked a little bit about this on Tuesday, but would love your guys' take on the legislative races that have piqued your interest. I will put a small shout out for my episode of Inside Utah Politics on Sunday, because we sit with State Senator Dan McKay. We largely talk about the upcoming session and the tax policy he's looking to run, lowering the income tax rate again, even in a lean budget year. But his race is one I really have an eye on in terms of Representative Doug Fiafia running against him, two sitting elected officials challenging each other. You guys can weigh in on that race, or tell me any other thoughts you have about who's running in 2026.
There's a couple ones that I'm watching that I'm really excited about. Jerry Stevenson, longtime senator from Layton and Kaysville, is not going to run again. Looks like the current mayor of Kaysville, Tammy Tran, is going to be filing, or has filed.
She's filed.
She's filed officially. And so that's going to be a really fun race to watch. Representative Barlow out in Kaysville, Fruit Heights, is not running again. His son has filed to run for that seat, a good guy, and actually has a good opponent, Lily, and her last name is escaping me. So two good opponents there. Cheryl Acton is not running in West Jordan. That's my district.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
She took my place.
Okay.
There's Gloria Vindas, who's a Utah Parents United candidate. She's going to be running as a Republican. Chris McConaughey, who was a 12-year former city councilman in West Jordan City, is going to be running for that seat. So there's a lot of really exciting, a lot of turnover. I think the average stay in the legislature is 5 to 6 years. So it's not these lifetime appointments like we think.
Adding Cheryl Acton to the list, by my count, that's 13 House members who are not coming back, and potentially another senator, because we haven't seen Ann Milner file yet as of this recording.
And I would bet she's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big change. One other thing I want to add is that J.R. Bird, who former congressional candidate, is running for the House out in eastern Utah. And so that will be an interesting race. And then there are a whole bunch of different things happening up and down. We have open seats on the state school board. We have open seats on the Salt Lake County Council. We have, the Salt Lake County DA is up for re-election this year. We have Jordan Tusher from the House, who's being challenged by the head of the FOP. That's going to be an interesting race, right? The CD1 race, which we haven't talked about at all, but of course that's going to be interesting. My current state senator is Nate Bluen, so there will be a replacement for that seat.
There's a lot of Democrats who've lined up for that.
Lots of changes, lots of shifting, and lots of current elected officials who are running for other seats right now.
Yeah. So Jill Coford trying to go to the Senate as well and run it for Ann Milner's seat. We haven't seen Ann Milner file.
Rosemary Lesser is going to be very
Rosemary
excited.
Lesser,
She's going to win that seat back.
Finally, House District 10 will not have a nail biter of a race. All right, you guys, thanks for your insights today. We really appreciate it. Erin Ryder, Adam Gardiner. As always, you can watch us on News for Utah Plus, our free streaming app, and tell your friends about us as well. And then Inside Utah Politics airs at 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Sundays on good old broadcast TV on ABC4. Producer Peter, love ya.
Love ya. Sorry, I'm on the computer.
Okay, thanks. He's fact-checking all of us.
He's like scrolling on Instagram.
All right, we'll see you next time.